And welcome, everyone. I'm Bill Newell, joined by Phil Stacey, Matt Williams, Nick Kukuru, the sports writers this week. And we're talking about a number of different topics. We've really talked a lot about winter, even though this week it feels like winter yet again. But let's talk some spring. We can talk some all-stars and some other things happening around in the sports world. But Phil, let me ask you about this, because before we talk about spring, and things are just starting here in the spring. Tell me about the all-star process, because I think you've already announced some all-stars in the Salem News, and Nick Kukuru in the Gloucester Times. I know you're in the process of beginning to do that all-star selections, but just give our listeners a little tip on what is ahead in the papers.
Sure. So, I mean, at the end of every season, we pick all-star teams for most of the various winter sports teams. If we have X amount of teams taking part, we'll do it, which is the majority of the sports there. And basically, for those of us who have seen enough games in a particular sport, we'll pick the all-star teams with some, input from coaches where needed, or fellow coaches, things like that. I mean, we look at all-star teams, league all-stars that come out. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean you will or won't make it, but, we try to go based on that. Say Willie and I will bounce hockey off of each other, we both see a lot of games there. Nick Giannino, who's not here, he's on vacation, will throw basketball ideas off of us, but he has a pretty good feel for the local basketball scene. Same with Gene DePlasso with the girls' side. And then, for the sports that we aren't able to get out to as much, we rely on, how they did in the postseason, whether it's swimming or track or wrestling, and league all-stars. We talk to coaches, and we just try to pick the best representative team from our area that we can. Now, it's important to note that we're not picking like a true, these are the 20, let's say, best players, because that would be skewed. I mean, when you have a range of, when you have some Division One team in a lot of our sports, and then you have some teams that are Division 4 and 5, well, I mean, that's not going to match up. Several, you might have, if you were doing a true all-star team, you might have 8 players from the Division 1 team and none from Division 4, but that doesn't really tell you how valuable players are to each team. So I think that, at least that's always the philosophy we've kind of gone on, is like how valuable are these players to their team and what makes them all-stars to their team, which in turn makes them all-stars for us, if that makes sense to you.
Well, I'll drive that home. For an example, if you had the Manchester Essex football team, that was one of the smallest schools, maybe not right in your coverage area, but if they had a Super Bowl team, had 3 all-stars on the team, of the Gloucester Times all-star team, and does that mean they could play for St. John's Prep? Hands down. Maybe no, of course not. Right. So,
or maybe flip that around. I mean, St. John's Prep hockey wins the state title. I mean, literally, they could probably have 10 to 12 kids who would be all-stars, maybe more, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's ridiculous. No one wants to read an all-star team that has a dozen St. John's Prep kids, and there's nobody from, Beverly or Masconomet or Hamilton Wenham or whatever else, So, we try to spread it around a little bit. Obviously, the better teams, the better your team is, the better chances are that your team will have an all-star. But it's not a scientific process per se. We just try to do the best we can based on, the good old eye test and asking a lot of people questions. Two pretty important things about being a sports writer. So paying attention and listening to what other people say.
I think too, just quickly, like on the hockey thing, not to feed the egos or whatever, but I mean, there are not every single kid that's an all-star, but I mean, certainly, Jack Costanzo, Emerson Marshall, AJ Sacco, the prep's going to display somebody to get those 3 guys in the lineup. So like, it's not like every single guy over there is, could displace our whole all-star team. I know that sometimes there are some folks over there that have some snickers about that, and I would dispute that.
Well, I think that's fair to say. I mean, there are certainly other players in the area that would play for St. John's. I don't think there's any question about that. You bring up a good point, too, about Costanzo and Marshall. I'm not a big fan for reading Twitter mentions. So if you tweet at me, there's probably a good chance I'm not going to see it or read it. But I do notice that a lot of my fans on Cape Ann tend to have a conniption every time something is mentioned where we don't mention the aforementioned Gloucester players. So let's set the record straight here. They're great players, both of them. They put up tremendous point totals this year. They were certainly the two leaders on a team that had a wonderful season, reaching the Final Four in Division II. They're great players, but they don't get mentioned in our leaders. They don't get mentioned in our all-stars. They're never going to get mentioned in our leaders. They're never going to get mentioned in our all-stars because there's a paper in Gloucester that takes care of that. Salem News does not cover Gloucester or Rockport or Manchester, Essex or Saugus or Winthrop or, Winchester or Dudley or Ludlow or any place else. We cover the area that's our coverage area. So that's why you're never going to see those kids in our paper. It's not a slight. It's not something conscious, but people apparently don't seem to understand that. So there you go.
That's what this podcast is for. That's what it's for.
That's tough.
I just fine with girls and boys basketball.
Say again.
I said they understand it just fine when it comes to girls and boys basketball. So
I'm not sure.
Well, again, if they tweeted to me, I wouldn't know. But So
I will say not to single out those parents because I have received Twitter. I think a lot of it is social media, right? I've received Twitter messages from people at Revere, who's not even in the NEC anymore. Like, oh, we have a girl that has however many goals in soccer.
Yeah.
It's come up in baseball in the past with Manchester Essex because they've had some really good pitchers that have a zillion strikeouts. It came up when Todd Tringali was striking out the universe for Saugus and, technically wasn't atop my leaderboard, right? But he still had a zillion Ks, so I think a lot of it is people see it on social media and they just, where's my kid? Because when you pick up the Salem News, you really can only get it in our communities, right? But Twitter kind of goes everywhere, and I think that's part of it too. But not to let the fishermen off the hook. See what I did there? But I have gotten messages from other people in other towns, like in different sports.
Hey, and you know what? I mean, I maybe should take some of the blame there because I tend to put what I think of when we refer to, the towns we cover, I say North Shore. And obviously Gloucester's on the North Shore and Saugus and Winthrop and St. Mary's of Land and all these schools are on the North Shore. I get that. So maybe I should focus more on Salem News area leaders or whatever, but it's, trust me when I say, it's not meant as a slight. I like watching kids stand outside of our coverage area perform as much as I'd like to see good players at any level, from any school. It doesn't matter to me where. But, we got our hands full with the 14 or 15 schools that we cover. We don't need to add, extra there. So no offense to anybody, but,
right.
It stays.
We struggle with trying to decide if we're supposed to include Salem Academy or not. Never mind, those other places.
I'm sure
we're not looking to add.
Adding Gloucester guys to your list and posting them in the Gloucester Times. But if I run Cape Ann leaders, they'd be watered down and meaningless. So,
To be honest, Nick, I think it's great that you do that because it gives the folks in your readership area an idea of who some of the other players are that stack up below them. And they can, let's say in the hockey, they can see what the disparity is there between, say, like a Marshall or Costanzo and maybe the next closest scorer, that kind of thing. So I think that's informative. And, hey, the people that follow hockey around area, it just becomes a tricky slope because then you're adding, like Willie said, the strikeout kid from Revere, the goalie from Haverhill, the soccer scorer out in Belchertown who's got 58 goals. Where does it end? We're keeping it the way it is.
It's really difficult. It is. It's that's why you don't really see state leaders and, the MIAA, they can't track the stats. They don't have state records. So there's really only so much we can do. I mean, we can barely get these people to enter the scores correctly to get the power seeds right. Never mind send us the actual statistics for the whole state. I mean, that's a whole other ball of wax. Just the teams that we do cover, we get enough complaints. Oh, that's not up to date. Where did you get that? My Susie had 3 more assists and all that kind of stuff. So, there's always something out there that's imperfect. Elias Sports Bureau, we are not.
No, but it is nice that, and it's certainly not why we do it. I mean, I think the 3 of us do it because we all enjoy that. I mean, it's interesting, first of all. Readers like it, and it helps us do our jobs better when we're on top of these numbers and all. So the
Absolutely.
rare occasions where you get a thank you for doing it, which is again not why we do it, but it's nice that people recognize, the work that goes into that, because this is not, I would say, a required part of the job. We could get by just fine without it, but it enhances what we do. We enjoy to do it. So it's a little bit extra that will add to the coverage that we have, which is why you see, the football scoring and complete stats in the paper, and soccer leaders, and field hockey scoring, and softball, and lacrosse, and baseball, and everything else. So we do what we can.
That's right.
I think you guys bring up good points in the fact for people to understand that the newspaper business and so on, and how that all works. And I think that, when I was at the radio station, or, doing games with MSO News Sports, we could go out and go anywhere if we wanted to, you know what I'm saying? Because we did not have to do the work that you guys do, staying on top of, what is it? How many schools, Phil, would you say it is?
Well, right now we have 15 that we cover.
15. I was going to say something like, so 15 schools, get that kind of coverage where their stats are totaled up, from sport to sport. You don't get that other places. You didn't get it from us on the website because we couldn't do it. We didn't have the manpower to do that kind of work.
Right.
But yet, we enjoyed going out and going to Revere, going to Winthrop, going up north when, to Newburyport, or, wherever we could go, that was fine. But, and I know you guys too, all you guys don't mind if Gloucester, Nick, happens to play down in Winthrop, that's fine, because, that there's nothing wrong with that.
I love traveling.
Exactly.
Going to
And seeing the other schools. It's not like it's people have blinders on here.
No.
But on the other hand, when it comes time to putting out a newspaper the next day, if Beverly's playing Danvers, and those are two towns right in the Salem news coverage area, that's a win-win for sure. You know what I'm saying? So,
bingo bango.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So what about the spring? Give me a quick little update on what's happening in the spring, where we are at now. Obviously, we've got some nice cold weather to share with the folks here. We got winter weather here, but snow on the ground on Monday morning in some spots. But what do we got for spring coming up? Lacrosse out early, right?
Cooks, you want to start? I did see when I was finishing up my run yesterday afternoon, I guess. I went by Evans Field and I saw Rockport scrimmaging Hamilton Wenham baseball, and I heard a voice saying, "You're wearing shorts? I'm freezing over here." I look up and it's one Mr. Reggie Maidment of Hamilton Wenham baseball. And Reggie, how you doing, pal? Great to see you. But I digress. Coops, if you want to go.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we got lacrosse starting at the end of the week. But if we're talking Cape Ann area, I think the strength lies in baseball and softball in my area. I think, both Gloucester and Manchester Essex baseball looking very good again this season. Gloucester, last year they won the NEC North partly because they had, 4 reliable arms, and 3 of them are back. Brett Moore, Zach Morris, and Tommy Elliott. Jack Costanzo and Emerson Marshall, their double play combination in the middle of the infield. Zach Oliver, who's, we talked about a lot during the basketball season, is, their third baseman, good bat in the middle of the lineup. Danny Hafey's back at catcher. So they, Rory Gentile is, he's, up there in the upper echelon of coaches in the NEC. So I think, there'll be a factor again this season. Manchester Essex might have as good of a 1-2 combo at the top of the pitching rotation as anyone in the Cal, with Kellen Heaney and Vaughn O'Leary. They've both been, both lefties. They've both been, pitching regularly since they were freshmen. Heaney actually was the winning pitcher when Manchester Essex won the state title in 2019, his freshman season. So he's already gotten it done in big games, and now he's back for his senior season. In softball, I'm thinking, Gloucester and Rockport should both be good on the softball side as well. Gloucester has a bunch of players back from last year's sectional semifinalists. Couple pitchers, Cam Carroll, Jenna Hoofnagel, Natalie Aiello, Ashley Aiello in the infield. So they're looking strong. And Rockport has, his pitcher Kelsey Anderson back. She's been starting since she was about a freshman as well. Kylie Schrock, they're big time basketball players, another very good player on that softball team, along with Kylie Wheat behind the plate. So I think we're looking at, four very good teams coming out of Cape Ann there in the baseball, softball ranks.
Nick, who's the new Rockport baseball coach?
It's Kyle Nelson, the hockey coach. So he's stepping in for John Hennessy. So Rockport was real senior laden last year. As sometimes when Rockport has those senior heavy teams, there might be a couple rebuilding years behind them. But I mean, just seeing what Kyle's done with the hockey program, they're in good hands over there. He does an excellent job with them. He's got twin brothers, Jack and Will Cahill, kind of the catalyst of that team. They're really the only key returning starters coming back. So there'll be a lot of new faces there in Rockport, but I mean, they're always solid on the diamond.
Will, you want to go? You want me to go next?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to see what's going on, right? I mean, we got some pitchers. We got, baseball's going to be busy. Everybody's going to be pretty good. I mean, I ran an informal poll about a week ago. It got about a little more than 100 votes, maybe 150, and it was a two-part poll. It was who's gonna has the best odds of winning the state baseball title. And of course, I used 8 different teams. We cover 13 MIA schools. I'm sorry, 12 MIA schools, and so I only picked 8. Twitter only lets you do 4 aside, right? And so together, I had Prep, Danvers, Masco, and Beverly. Of course, the Prep won that poll. And the second poll, Fenwick, Marblehead, Swampscott, and Hamilton Wenham. And of course, Fenwick won that poll. So I guess the parochials are dominating baseball, just like hockey and boys basketball too. Those are our 2 teams that have the best odds to win the state title, according to our Twitter followers. And of course, both defending Division North champions from last year, the Prep winning in 1, Fenwick winning in 3. And both added imports from other varsity teams, so they should only be better. So it's interesting how that works. But, everybody's really interested to see how Fenwick does with their new coach, man, Antonelli, too. I mean, a guy that come over from St. John's Prep. And, I mean, he knows baseball inside and out. That's for sure. The kids love him, and they're going to play hard for him. And that CCL with Austin Prep humming, and St. Mary's being a defending state champion is one of the most competitive leagues in the whole state. So Fenwick is a big time team to watch with Matt over there. And I think in the Northeastern Conference, Marblehead, Danvers, and Masco and Beverly look like the 4 teams to beat. Marblehead's got the most back in their lineup, not as much pitching. And of course, Danvers has Joe Zamitis, the big strikeout guy, back. They're going to have to find some innings behind him. But I really like those teams too. I think the Northeast Conference, as Nick said, Gloucester looks excellent. I think it's a league where everybody's kind of beat up on each other. I wouldn't be surprised if everybody ends up, with a fair number of losses, but better off for it. I don't see a clear-cut favorite in either the North or the South. Because I don't see really a lot of depth in pitching outside of Gloucester, and I do see a lot of good lineups. So I think that it's going to be really hard to predict, and nobody's going to be running away with it. I really don't see a clear-cut favorite. I don't know if you guys do.
No, I don't. I don't know if Gloucester has the power and the lineup to go with that pitching staff. Kind of the opposite of what we saw from them in hockey season, where they were all scoring.
I feel like, and maybe we can get a call of the bullpen on this one. I'm not even entirely sure at this point. I got some other things going on in my life right now. I haven't made any calls yet. Who's in the North and who's in the South? I don't even know. Like, is Gloucester? I don't even know what the standings, how they're even aligned for this year.
Yeah, it took me till about 3/4 of the season last year to realize that Gloucester's leading the North and Marblehead the South. I thought it was the other way around for
Right.
about 3/4 of the season. So I have no idea.
Or the Lynch and the Baker, I guess we should say, but I'm not sure which one's which. So, that could be, we should try to figure that out, I guess, by the end of by Mother's Day, we'll try to figure out the standings this year.
I think you guys are undone. You undid all that great work we did boosting you guys up a few minutes ago here with that. But I get it. No, but that's
I can tell you
legit.
what the North and South was 5 years ago, but they keep changing it. I mean,
That's true.
Changes each sport.
And it's sport to
maybe
sport,
that
it
out. I
changes,
can't
yeah.
figure that out.
What do you
know
have that you're so busy?
boys
You're not
tennis is
making
a three
calls
team-
there, Willie. What do you have going on that you're so busy there, MW?
Oh, not much, just a few things over here.
A few things, huh?
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, the conference, and again, like I said, they keep, that problem is they keep changing it. We used to have the conference down pat, and now they, now they keep switching it around. So it's like hard to remember who's up and who's down in any given year.
And it's different from sport to sport, as you were saying, Nick, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, I know
Yeah.
boys tennis last year had a 3-team conference, and Gloucester boys tennis was NEC South champs at 4-12. They were 4-0 in the NEC South division with the other two teams in there. With I think it was South and Salem.
I like that too. I'm not criticizing it. I'm glad they have different
No, I don't
alignment.
mind it.
Yeah.
I just haven't had a chance to memorize it yet. That's on me. I'm not bashing those guys.
Exactly.
Does Peabody have a team again this year, Willie? Boys tennis? Do we know, are they back?
Oh my God, I have no idea. They were with Danvers for a little while.
Yeah.
I'm not. I really.
I thought I heard they had their own team again.
They have courts and they have tennis courts over there, I think, Phil, right? Don't they? I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they do have courts. Yeah, I think they were playing in Peabody when they had the Danvers. I think there was like only one Danvers kid, but I don't remember the details of that particular service point.
All right, so maybe tap into boys lacrosse here a little bit.
Sure.
It's going to sound a lot like hockey. St. John's Prep is going to be the favorite for the Division I state title. They won the title last year. You might remember that took 2 days to finish. Actually, they started on June 30th, ran out to a lead, lightning delay, hour plus. They called off the game. Well, they delayed the game. Had to come back the next day, July 1st, to finish up. But they won the state title over BC High, and they've got quite a few boys left, or back, I should say, from that team, including two key guys who just won a state hockey title a week and a half ago. Jimmy Ayers and Tommy Sani. Jimmy is a junior, but he's already bound for Johns Hopkins, and Tommy is a senior who's going to be going to Providence, both Division I schools for lacrosse. They combined for 77 goals and 121 points or so last year. So they're both back up front. They're going to be the go-to guys. A lot of other guys that they can go to up front. You got Harlan Graber, you got Will Sawyer, you got Coney Keefe, you got Max Perot, you got Noah Brown, all kinds of guys. Charlie Wilmot's back on D. Ty Ambarosh is back on D. Zach Raposa, Pierce Blazer, Lucas Verrier. I'm trying to think. Jake Vanna, who should really be a standout as a sophomore for them. Defensively, lockdown, Connor Kelly, Tim Harriman, Christian Rooney back there, Luca Winter, Matt DeChara. I would think that Teddy Cullinane will take over in goal, but that remains to be seen. But lot of talent over there at St. John's. No surprise to anybody that they have so much back. I think Marblehead is going to be really good again. They're defending NEC champs for the last few years now, and they returned two of their big stud scorers. They lost Will Scholl. Obviously, he was a player of the year last year, but coming back, you get Josh Robertson, who had 61 points last year up front. Connor Cronin, he's a junior. He had 33 goals and 54 points last year. Carter Laramie's back. I expect his scoring totals to go up. He had 16 goals last year. So they have a lot over there. I think Finn Miniacci will probably step in a goal over there. Be interesting to see what happens at Fenwick, where they have a new coach this season. They just hired recently a new coach taking over for Steve Driscoll, who's over at Salem State now. But they have a little bit of firepower back with Manny Alvarez-Segui, has 31 goals a year ago. Anthony Sasso had 12 as a freshman, so they'll be okay. I know Beverly is looking to get back to their winning ways. They had a 7-8 record last year under first-year coach Matt Reardon, and they're hoping to pick it up behind guys like Matty Meza, Gavin Lawrence, DJ Bikini, James Silva, Jackson Thomas, kids like that. Who else? Danvers, I know, has some of their big guys coming back this year that helped out last year. I think Colby Dunham will have a good season for them. He'll be a leader for them there. Penguin just played their first game the other day. The prep school started a little bit early. Jack Feeks had 4 goals. I think it'll be a real big season for him as they look for him to kind of be the go-to guy up front. Essex Tech has got a lot of new faces. They graduated some real talented players from that season a year ago where they, put up all kinds of offensive numbers behind guys like Calvin Helene, Matt Powers. But you got Brandon Swayzik back. He had 65 points. I'm sorry, Brian Swayzik. I said Brandon. Brian Swayzik had 27 goals, 65 points last year. Jonathan Daly, he's another guy who's Brian's hockey teammate. He had 20-odd points last year. And David Egan, same thing. He had about 10 goals for them last year. So, and Damian Burstecker will be back in goal for the Hawks. So, Hamilton will be solid again. Ipswich is always good under Glenn Foster. And, they returned Henry Wright and his 27 goals from a year ago. So I think we're going to have another really good year locally on the North Shore. Peabody lost a lot of talent. I'm interested to see what Coach Leo Schidler and his group can do. Having lost, Big Jack Holden last year, Drew Lucas, those are the 2 biggest losses. But, they do return kids like Matt Betancourt and Thomas Lane. So I'll be interested to see how they can do.
Hey, we have one more prep wrestling update, Matt Williams, don't we? I mean, what's happening? They continue to be in the news every week here in the podcast.
Yeah, that guy won a national title. I guess that's pretty decent. Tyler Knox went down to Virginia Beach and went 6-0, and he pinned his guy in the national final in a minute and 26 seconds. He put the guy's shoulders down on the mat to win a national title. So that's 2 years in a row now. The prep has had a national champion down there at the big event in Virginia Beach. So that's pretty cool to see, good for them. Knox, interestingly enough, he competed at 126 pounds up at home. And I guess he, cut out the ice cream and dropped down to 120 for nationals and won it down there. And didn't lose any strength, right? He still, Coach Manny Costa was saying his grip strength was off the charts. He, really good top game. So he drops the 6 pounds and it ends up getting even better. So very interesting to see that happen and just remarkable what they continue to do wrestling wise over there. I mean, I know it's kind of a niche sport, the people that love it are really rabid about it, right? But it's hard to get much better than what we see at St. John's. I mean, national champions, wow.
Yeah.
And the kid's going to Stanford, so it's not like he's it's not like it's like a national thing. Sometimes in the track nationals, you got a million different divisions, and the kids who win the so-called national titles aren't always have the best times or whatever. But this guy's going to Stanford. He's going to be competing for NCAA titles too. That's legit, as some would say, the real deal.
I'm reminded of this story when I was out in Pittsburgh a number of years ago. Around this time of year, maybe a little earlier, but it was during basketball season. The front page of the Pittsburgh Gazette there, Post Gazette, right? The Boston Globe of Pittsburgh, if you will. Its front page sports is all high school wrestling, which you would never see in the Boston Globe. But different parts of the country, wrestling is bigger than it is in other parts of the country. And not that it's not significant here in our area, but it's huge in other parts of the country. And case in point, Western Pennsylvania, apparently. So
Yeah.
a little aside there. Okay, now guys, let me ask you this. So here's a quick transition question for you. Moving from winter to spring or whatever, we're hearing about, and we've talked about this in the podcast, talented athletes that might be leaving their schools to go to other schools, which never happened before. It never happened much before, but it's happening more and more. Can you tell me more about that piece, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I can take it from the hockey perspective. I mean, just being on the rink so much, you hear rumors all the time about kids, this one's thinking of leaving, one wants to go to this school, this one is hoping to transfer here. A lot of it I don't think has merit, but, sometimes with this smoke, this fire. And I do think people tend to, the talented players are going to get seen. There's no question about that. I think other people are maybe chasing unrealistic expectations. And I say that because I think sometimes this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, why isn't my kid in the stats leaders or whatever? most people that are watching these sports at this level view things through the prism about the size of the head of a pin. You know, they're focused on their kid or their grandson or, you know, whatever. We obviously take a broad view of it. We're not looking for any one kid or player. We kind of view the whole thing. So we don't have a horse in the race, so to speak, or, you know, I guess rose-colored glasses do not enter the picture when we see it. So sometimes you hear like, oh, so-and-so wants to go to, you know, prep school or parochial school, whatever, and you say, really? That person? Okay. You know, but yeah, I hear rumors all the time. I mean, I could tell you off the top of my head, 6 guys I know that are supposedly going to different prep schools next year. You know, is it going to happen? I don't know. In some cases, maybe it should. If you're tearing up the Northeastern Conference as a sophomore, and I can think of 2 of them who did this year, is it going to behoove you to stay in the Northeastern Conference? Are you going to get better if you really want to play college hockey or whatever? Maybe not. But if you're, you know, you're so-so, you're okay. You know, you do all right, and you're looking to make that leap, you know, maybe you got to look and say, like, am I really ready for that yet? You know, I mean, that's a choice every family has to make. I can tell you what I think, but nobody's asking me. I can only tell you from an outside point of view. So, yeah, we do hear it from time to time, and I do think it's that chasing that almighty, you know, whether it's scholarship or, you know, playing on the biggest stage or with the best kids or whatever. I mean, hey, when it works out, it's great. You know, it worked out great for Alyssa Moreland, for Beverly. You know, she went to Tilton, clearly a special talent. Didn't she, Willie? Didn't she just get like all New England prep school honors or something like that? She got
first team all New England. Yep, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Worked out great for Chris Kreider. You know, he's probably not a $7 million a year NHL hockey player for the Rangers if he stayed 4 years at Masco. But those people are the exceptions. You know, and you really got to weigh each scenario and say, like, what's best for my kid, not only athletically, but academically and socially and all these things. So, yeah, tons of rumors. We hear them all the time. That's why we don't print rumors, but just kind of file them away, back of your head kind of thing.
I would say too, you know, it's not always a bigger stage. You know, I mean, if like Phil said, if you go to Tilton, I mean, the Zagorowski twins go to Tilton and they play in the big tournament that used to be at Endicott College that draws thousands of fans and scouts stuff. You know, some of those games are on a bigger stage, but a lot of those games are played in front of crowds that are, you know, 1/10 the size of what you see at your regular high school games. So it's certainly not always a bigger stage. And you know, the never mind the Salem news, you know, the Boston papers certainly don't cover the prep schools. They don't rank the prep schools the way that they do the high schools. So it's not always a quote unquote bigger stage. I mean, I know they'll tell you that, and you know, the scouts will find you, and you know, the college coaches will be there more, and yeah, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I mean, in today's advent of video and you know, everybody having a cell phone and recruiting services and stuff, I mean, you know, if you can play, they'll find you. You know, it would be my take on the matter.
Jack Costanzo didn't need to go to a prep school to be a good hockey player. You know, I mean, that video that came out during the playoffs, what game was that, Nick, where he kind of dipsy-dooed around 4 guys and scored that ridiculous goal?
Yeah, against Norwood. That was on ABC. Right. That Messier commented on that one.
Yeah, I mean, with all of a social media, I mean, that's what you need right there. You know, you don't need to play 65 games at 11:30 in the morning on a Wednesday against the, you know, Hartford Bullet Express, you know, junior team. Parents need to be really cautious. I mean, a lot of that's a money grab, and I realize, you know, that prep schools aren't, but you know, you just have to be really careful. The grass is not always greener, and you know, there's all kinds of opportunities once you finish your high school career to go on and do, you know, postgraduate or junior or whatever. So, you know, hey, every family has to do what's best for them, but I do think sometimes the proverbial grass or ice is not always greener.
And iron does sharpen iron. I mean, you do want to play against the best possible competition. Obviously, yeah. I think all 3 of us on this show right now certainly subscribe to that in terms of our high school teams. We want them, you know, we're always saying go schedule the best because it's going to make you better come tournament time, right? So that sort of applies to the individual players too. You want to play against the best if you can, you know, but having said that, you know, those schools aren't always the best. I mean, I find in my experience that typically those teams are very top heavy. You know, they have some prospect players, And then the rest of the lineup is people that maybe might not even make the varsity in the Northeast Conference. I mean, we've all seen some of those games over at Pingree where it's like, well, there's, 2 or 3 A+ players on this team, and it's filled out with a bunch of C minuses, whereas an NEC team, maybe they don't have all the A+ players, but the whole roster is a bunch of Bs. So you're not having that sort of lack of competitiveness at the bottom of the roster. And I hope that makes sense. I'm not trying to like insult anybody, but sometimes those teams are not as balanced, I guess is the word, as some of your traditional varsity teams, right? They're a little bit more top heavy, I think, right? I mean, you guys have seen that.
Well, I know we're running up against it here, but I just want to say this. I think it's almost become like a dirty phrase to say, like, you want to play for your high school team or whatever. It's not, it doesn't mean you're not good. It doesn't mean that like you can't compete at a high level. There's something to be said for wanting to, if you choose to go to a Bishop Fenwick or St. John's Prep or Pingree, whatever, that's fine. But there's also nothing wrong with choosing to stay home and playing with your friends that you've played with all your life. There's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. Well, you're my friends, guys, and we're here all the time, every week here, checking in, talking sports. Gentlemen, always good talking with you. Great stuff this week, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Bill.